Hey guys, yeah, so just here in the Drifta backyard, and I've been playing around with some of these pine logs recently and making a bit of furniture and doing a few videos. I thought I'd show you some of the stuff I've been making and how to make them, because well, a few people have been asking me how I'm doing it, what I'm doing, and so I thought I'd do a little video. The other thing too is we've got this new mic. It's a Robe mic. It took us a while. A mate of mine got me onto them, and it's a bit of a game changer, so I'm going to do a review on this shortly as well. But a place like this where there's some road noise and a bit of wind, we wouldn't be able to do a video before. You have to wait early in the morning or in the afternoon, no wind, very quiet. But this is a total game changer, these little Road mics. So we can do some, a lot more videos. Filming with the iPhone, the mic with this, little dead cat so that no wind noise, and that's, yeah, really a big game changer for us. So anyway, so what I'm doing here is, there's been a lot of pine trees. We've got some from here and also next door, and we've been cutting these trees down. You can see one here, and now that's about 4 meters long, and with a Alaskan mill, which I'll show you how to do that, and a ladder, we can slab that really nice. Okay, we've got about 3.5 meter ladder, and we can slab that pretty accurately and make some stuff out of it. But with these short logs here, you can't really run that with an Alaskan mill. It's just too short. I mean, you could, but it's a lot of mucking around. So you can see all these slabs here. These are all freehand cut, and I've sort of worked out this new technique that I've been using that's total freehand. And so I've started last weekend. This is the first cut I did, which is here. You can see that I was coming back this way. And it's like, not naturally, like if you're ripping posts, if you know how to do that, you sort of pull. You'll see them doing it at shows and everything, the logs, and they'll mark them with chalk and rip backwards. But you're only cutting in about this far, not right through the log, because you roll the log around and you rip your posts, for posts, fence posts and stuff. But with this technique, so I've stopped going backwards, I'm going forwards. And so that's the second log I cut, which is starting to get some better results. Okay. And working down here, that's what I'm sort of coming up with now. Sorry, that might have been one of the second ones, but look at that result there now. Okay, so that's from running forwards. So you go forward and then down, forward and down. I'll show you how to do it. And you could hit that with the battery power planer, and it'd be almost good enough for a shelf or a bench. You can biscuit join them, make a desk. Lots of things you can do with this sort of stuff. So yeah, anyway, one of the tips with it is you need as long a bar as possible. All right, so what I've done, I went out and I got myself 36-inch bar, which is on the Husky 585. So I bought this saw particularly to chop a big uke down at Drifta, because my other saw just wasn't big enough, and it had, I think, a 26 or 28-inch bar, and I've got the full-size bar, 36-inch bar. So I haven't used this yet. You can see it's brand new, chain is brand new, and I was pretty keen to have a go at this log. Now the technique is, you basically want to keep as lower angle as you can, run it along, and then down, long and down, so you're sort of going along and then dropping down a bit, and long and down. Now that seems to, because what you're trying to do is cut nice and straight, okay? You can see where I've marked it out down there. I'm going to cut down these lines here, and you want to get it nice and straight without any big marks, and also you don't want any twist in it. So it's no good sort of having, you're cutting straight, but you could have a twist. So there's 3 planes you're working on, forward, down, and also the twist. So it's like a 3-dimensional cut. Now, this is the danger part of the saw here. Of course, you've got the kickback function. Now, I mean, you can put your saw into logs. I mean, you can do it. I've built round yards before with an old mate, and from Carcore, and you're literally putting the end of your chain, your bar, straight in. You can cut a square hole into any log. But you gotta be very careful. But this is the danger zone here, so it can flick up. But keep in mind what we're doing. We're only cutting with this section here, from here back to here, really, just this section here. We're not getting up onto here, so it doesn't, if you do it right, because a lot of people been, you know, we showed it a little bit before, and people are, oh, it's dangerous, you'll kick back. It ain't going to kick back if you do it like this. And not many people have done it like this. I haven't seen anyone in Australia doing it like this. You know, I saw this technique on TikTok actually, and I don't know where they were, but they were speaking Spanish, so I'd imagine it's South America somewhere. And they were freehand cutting, you know, bare feet, holding like this, literally like this, going along, crossing down, like I'm going to do, and getting them beautifully straight. I don't know how they do it so perfect, but it's all they're doing. They were flicking a line, slabbing them, and then put it on their shoulder and carrying it out on a scooter. So we're going to give it a go, and I'll show you cutting this slab, and then we'll show you how to machine it up, and a couple of things we've been making out of it. Because if you've got a pine log anyway, we got a few of these logs from the neighbour. Pine trees are everywhere, and you know, you can make this stuff pretty easy. All right, we'll give it a go. Yeah, so you can see brand new. I haven't tried it with this new bar, but we will give it a go. Alright, so yeah, that bar's is long and I wasn't quite used to it. I'd broken through here. I hadn't realised I was through. So hopefully I haven't touched the ground. But anyway, look at that. So that's what I've just cut. Alright, it's pretty straight. That's within, I'd say within 5 mils on a plane. And look at that. So I can plane this little bit out here. But you can see what I'm doing. You're just doing that really. And that's not bad for a freehand cut. Look at this. All right. Now that was what I did a couple of days ago with a 28-inch bar. But definitely the longer bar is the trick, because you're trying to keep that angle nice and low. So I'll cut these other ones up shortly, and now Now what other thing I've been doing is I'm marking these at 50 mils apart. Righto, so these lines are 50 mils apart. You take out about 10 mil for a cut and you're left with about 40 mils. See that? Alright, so that works out pretty good. Once you plane this down, take 5 mils off here, 5 mils off here, you're left with 30, and about 28 mils is pretty good for a shelf. Between 28 and 30 mils is nice for a shelf. Any less getting a bit thin, and any more it's going to be chunky. You can go chunkier, but I've marked these at 50, less 10 for your cut. I've found works out to be pretty good. Anyway, so there's a way that you can freehand cut logs, right, quite easily. You don't need a Lucas mill. Lucas mill is going to cost you 20 grand or something. Alaskan mill, only about 300 bucks. They're pretty good. And we'll show you that technique, but no good for small logs. So this is a great technique for short logs, and I can plane that up, join them together. I can make a big desk, two of those together, biscuit join, brace underneath, there's a table. You can get some bamboo for some legs, and it's a great, it's a great table. So, all right. And then this sawdust, beautiful sawdust. You can see that, that's going to go straight into the chicken coop, just down here, and on the garden. Once it's been in the chicken coop for a month or so, then we're going to throw it on the garden. So, all right. Right, so here in my shed, and yeah, I was building stuff at Drifta for 20 years and had a really good setup factory. My little bay where I was working, and we expanded that to 50 benches, and we've made millions of dollars worth of stuff. But I've lost my old bench that I've got. I'd love to get it back, how I had it set up. So I'm not really set up very well here at the moment, but I've got to sort of rearrange things and get myself better set up. Because I've only just started recently getting back into it. But anyway, a bit of a mess, but that's where it is at the moment. This is a desk I'm making myself. Just letting that timber dry out a bit, but that's upside down, letting it dry. A frame with this, big bench on top, which we've made. Here's some of the ones we made the other day with the shorter bar, and again you can see that pretty good result. There's no twist in that. There's no twist at all in there, and you could clean it up almost with a belt sander. You wouldn't even need a planer with that one. But just about having a steady hand, and these are all sitting here just sort of having a little dry out. I'll make some stuff out of them. I'll show you inside themselves as well. This is some freehand ones I cut. This is the offcut of a shelf. All right, so look at that. So that's, I think, 27 mils, 26 mil. Look at that beautiful effect. So this is a live tree. It was, the leaves had it looks pretty much dead on the outside. Just the top of the tree was green, the rest of it was dead, but it wasn't rotten. Okay, so it's a 90% dead tree, but with that the bark stays on. You can see how the bark here, what I've been doing is just chipping the bark off, like that. Now if it's totally dead and dry tree, all the bark's going to come off. You're not going to get that effect, and the pines will rot very quickly as well. So, if you can keep that bark on, then that's the effect you get, which is quite a nice contrast. The beautiful yellow with that nice dark sort of bark. So I'll use that for something, a small shelf later. Anyway, this one I've just finished cutting up. A little Makita plane. It's only a 300 mil. And this is one of the rougher logs I had. I'm going to cut this in half for a couple of shelves. And I've just trimmed it. Okay, so when I'm trimming, I'm just using a straight edge. Righto, just on there like that with a cramp. Haven't got I don't have I've got a little table saw here, but you can't use a table saw for this. You need a straight edge. And really what you want is a track saw, and I've got one coming, but all you need is a straight edge and power hand saw. So that offset there is 38 mil. Set that back 38 and you can just run that along, and that that will cut it off. Once you've got one straight edge, right, you can come back with a big square and get those edges there. And then what I've done is, to get it less than 300 mils to run through the thickness, so I've just done another straight edge across there like that. It's going to be a nice effect there. So I'm now sitting at about 40 mil. We'll run it through the thickness for a couple of hits. So this was one of the rough logs, one of the first lot I cut, which is pretty rough. But that's going to be on the bottom anyway, so it doesn't matter so much. I'll get this a bit better yet. But you can see there, starting to get some nice smooth plane. And that'd be okay even. You've got a bit of texture there from the saw cuts, which is nothing wrong with that. That'd be actually quite good. You could get that perfect as well. So I might just do another mil. So I'm sort of doing about half a mil at a time. And although I don't want it to be too thick, so I'm probably going to bring this right out as well, just to get that thickness down. I don't want it to be too thick and heavy. So I'll run this through a few more times and then we'll come back and have a look. Alright, so that didn't take long, half a dozen passes, and look at that. So this will be the top, and you can see you're going to have that nice bit of grain there. I'm going to cut this in half, trim it up a little bit, and then we'll give it a sand. It won't take much of a sand, just a light sand. Then we're going to hit it with some natural orange oil, and then we'll hang it up. So we'll show you that. Now this is, this is nothing complicated too. This is super basic stuff. It's like first year apprentice level stuff. If you ask me to make a door or a window, my grandfather was a cabinet maker and one of the best. He was highly skilled cabinet maker all his life. I'm not qualified in anything. I'm just giving things a go. But this is basic stuff. It's not like I'm a cabinet maker. I build a lot of kitchens, camping kitchens and drawers, which is super basic. This is simple stuff. This is stuff anybody can do. If you had a few basic things. What's cool about this is that you can, you see a pine tree in a paddock, you could cut it down, you could cut it up, and you can slab it and make some beautiful gear. And the things I'm making, I'll show you, shelves and a few stuff. Furniture doesn't have to be complicated to be functional and look really cool, you know. And you know, it's a bit of Thai style as well, or Thai bush style. I love the bamboo. You can see all this bamboo here. So this is bamboo that I planted at Drifta 10 or more years ago, and I love the bamboo. So much you can do with it, but you know, this bamboo combined with the pine has just got some beautiful textures, colours, and simple functionality, which I just love, you know. And the bamboos, I'm learning how to muck around with it, how to work with it. You can see that's the same bamboo, but that's dry. It's been dried in the sun. Okay, but there's so much you can do with bamboo. And the only thing you need to work with bamboo, I've built some tables we'll show you, is basically this little folding saw. We've got the silky saws, selling for a long time. We've got the little Stockton saws, an axe, and this is a silky nada knife, basically a bush knife, or even a machete. That's all you need. To work with bamboo, that's all you need, that and that. Screws and, you know, nails and pins. Very basic stuff. You can't cut this with a chainsaw, it'll just splinter. But the bamboo splinter is really easy. And the thing is with it is, yeah, it splits very easy, but you can router it, and you can also hole saw it. So what I've been doing is hole sawing. So I've got a few different hole saws, right? So you can see that'll fit on that. So if I want to join that onto there, I can hole saw the end of that, and then it'll fit on there really nice. Okay, and then you can screw it together. So we'll take a screw, no worries, as long as it's pre-drilled and you don't go too close to the end. All right, I'll just get this one here dressed up, and then we'll show you. All right, so we're going to cut these into 2 shelves 645, and this is basically an American style builder square. They're absolutely brilliant because you know, nice and big for a start, but I'll show you what you can do with it. One of the secrets to good carpentry is having a sharp pencil, you know. One of the most important tools, honestly, in our Drifta factory is the pencil sharpener. And it sounds so simple, but we've got a good style, you know, you stick it in and pencil sharpener. That's one of the most important tools in our factory at Drifta. Has been that way for 22 years. Everybody's got one on the bench, and having a sharp pencil is so important. You know, you can tell the quality of a carpenter or a plumber just by watching them and their pencil, you know. If it's blunt hole, big wide thing, you know, you're not going to get anywhere near a millimetre accuracy. And really for a cabinet maker, you've got to be spot on accurate, like to the millimetre, you know, not even half a millimetre, it's got to be to the millimetre. So anyway, there's a little tip. Got to be HB, and these good little small pencils, like, you know, you see those big builder's pencils, they can go in your tool bag, but I never liked those, even when I was carpentry building back in the day, because these are small enough to put behind your cap, so you can always have it with you all the time. Whereas the big ones, you can't get them sharp, and they don't fit behind your hat. And one of the secrets with this big builder square is you can use it to, right, so I can see my edge of my blade there, set that on there, that's square, so that's square there. And watch this. All right, the Australian style combination square that we've always used, you can't do that with that. You can't do it. So these are, only problem with these, there's a smaller one, you can't put them in your nail bags. But this is something I learnt in America, and they are brilliant, you know. Just hit that. I've got to get this shed sorted out. All right, now this is a bit of a tricky cut because if I had a radial arm saw, it'd be good. All right, because as soon as you start cutting that, it's going to dip. It's going to, you know, once you get to the end of the cut, it's going to go down, jam your blade. Then you're fighting your saw, and then, you know, that's when things can go wrong. I've seen a bloke, I was working with a bloke who cut his thumb off with one of these, and one of the biggest no-nos is to you're cutting and hold something like that. That's how you lose your thumb. You never ever do that. Okay, always your hand's got to be in front or out of the way. So if you hold it like that and it grabs, it's going to go straight back over top of your thumb. And I didn't see it happen, but I was with a bloke and that's exactly what happened to him. He was a 50-year-old builder, lost his thumb just like that, and it's going to ruin your day. So what I can do here is set the depth. Now you can see the depth there, what I've got, because here's another little tip, right? I was cutting a much thicker piece before. I was cutting this one of these, where is it? Maybe that's it there. So it's about 45 mils. But you can see I've set my blade. Okay. Very important for these type of saws to have the blade just below your job. Right now, I was actually at work the other day, and one of the boys who's working for me, he was cutting some very thin material, which is 3.7 draw base for the Starlink bags, and he's cutting bed bases, 3.5 mil ply. He had his blade like that, and what that's doing is it's harder to cut, and also as the saw comes up there, it's going to splinter the job, right? So if that was right down low, right? Imagine if I'm cutting something very thin and the blade's like this, right? The blade's not coming up and splitting the job, it's going across. You can see it's down and across, okay? So it's very important and a good tip, and something a lot of people don't know. We've got to teach all of our boys to set the height of your job just below what you're cutting, right? Literally like that. Yeah, the other advantage with that too is I can cut across a bench, right, or across a saw stool. These saw stools here, right, I'll show them later on, but these are saw stools I made 25 years ago. Just out of scrap pine at a job site. They're still going. Actually, I found them out at Mum's farm. We were there a few months ago. My brother had pinched them 20 years because I started doing cabinet making in the shop, building camping kitchens, and he was still building. So he'd snaffled them somehow. He'd been using them 25 years ago, and look at this. You can see that by having the saw, that was my brother there, I'm sure. I wouldn't have done that. By having that set just under your job, you're not going to cut through things. And that's very important. So it does a few things, very important for a few reasons. You're not going to cut through your bench. It's a much safer cut, and it's a much neater cut as well, because you're not getting that saw coming up vertical and ripping the top of your job. I'll show you how to make these later on, because here's a brilliant saw bench or a saw stool. You can stand on them. They're very strong. A lot of saw stools have this piece here, and they don't have that. As soon as you cut through, then you stand on them, they snap, and you fall over, break your leg. So this is a great design I come up with. So simple, but you can't buy them, And the saw stools you buy from the shop are absolute rubbish. They only have this top piece. They're these tiny little legs, they're like this high. They're absolute rubbish. They're junk, and these are brilliant. They stack, and they're really good. So let's do that same technique and cut this. Right, now the job's not going to fall through because I'm on a platform. Right, you see that there? So it's starting to jam. That's because it's just getting a little bit of dip. Okay, had a bit of trouble with that. That's all good. But you can see if that jams and comes back and you're holding here, that's when you lose your finger. All right, now that's jamming because there's that bit of flexibility here. It's coming down and jamming the end of the job. Okay, so got there in the end. The other thing too, with all the sap, this is very sticky timber because it's literally wet, very sticky. Sap is coming out of this a little bit, and it's grabbing as well. But you can see there, I've only cut through a couple of mils, about 3 mils. And now that's happened just because I'm not very well set up, and I've got to set this up better soon. You need a proper workbench for this here, and I'll have that sorted soon. Righto, so pretty simple. I'm just going to run around that. Rightio, so I'll do that one next, and that's it here. So yeah, I really got to get myself sorted. So busy, I'm frantically working every day and Drifter, but I've quickly knocked off. And I should bring that saw bench over here and work with that, which is a much better bench. There we go. Much better. All right, so we'll get a bit of orange oil, and this is a good bit. What's this? So this is Gillies, a company in Western Australia. Gillies Fresco timber oil. It's basically orange oil. It smells beautiful, and so does this timber here. So just wipe it on with a rag. It's a shocking day outside, wind, and so we've unfortunately lost most of that bark there, but that's okay. Look at that. All right. You let that soak in for a little bit, give it a bit of a rub, and that's it. Pretty basic, very simple, but it looks great, and you did it yourself. You cut a freehand, and we'll go and put that onto a shelf. Got these brackets I made up that we got made, and we'll show you what it looks like inside. All right, Downey's gone inside, but look at this one. Look at that. Looking good, eh? Alright, so here's the shelf there, and this is the second one I made. It's got a bit of a nicer front on it. And just ready to put those in. Now, these are just very short bugle screws. They're just short enough, as you can see, to not hit the bottom. If that's a bit thinner, you've got to chop the end of that off, or you could use a metal one. But these going pretty good. Now with the screws, something I'll point out as well, I was with a mate the other day, hopefully he's not watching this, and he was trying to put a tech screw into a metal container, but it was a wood tech screw, and it wasn't going in, of course. And I said to him, mate, what are you doing? That's a wood screw. And he says, no, it's a tech screw. I said, yeah, it's a wood tipped tech screw as opposed to a metal tipped tech screw. But you know, a lot of people don't understand about screws and how it all works. But I'll give you a quick little demo. That's the tip, of course, and that's going to be solely timber only, okay? So that's a timber screw, pretty simple. That's the countersink, and it's a ribbed countersink. This is the shank, and that's the shaft there, and the thread. So to put a screw nice and neat like you've just seen there, there's three things I have to do. One is the countersink, which I've done, the countersink bit. Two, I've pre-drilled for the shank. This is what most people get confused with, okay? That thread is about 5.5 mils. So for this section here, I've drilled a 4.5 mil pilot hole. So that pilot hole. But to clear the shank, this section, I've got to drill a 5.5 mil. Otherwise, what happens? If I just drilled straight down with a 4.5 mil, you're going to bind on here, on this section here. So while this is trying to cut through, this is binding, and that's the most important thing to know. That's why we'll show you later, maybe with some wing tips, little wing tips. They've got these tiny little wings on the end of a screw. So if you're screwing through timber into metal, generally, a lot of the time you'd use a wing tip. So if you're putting a chipboard floor down onto metal purlins, and that's what the little wings are for, is to clear for the shank, which means you just drill it straight down. And as soon as those little wings hit the metal, they snap off, and then the tip will drill through. So I'll show you one of those. So, but for this here, three things I do. So I've drilled a 4.5 mil pilot hole. Okay, 4.5 mil is pretty good for a bugle. 4.5 mil pilot hole into here. I've drilled a 5.5 mil through the timber to clear the shank, and I've also countersunk it. If you do that, you'll get a nice, that starts sitting flush, bedded in really well. The thread's not trying to fight the shank, and that's all good. So that's a little shelf. This is my first bench I made here, which is pretty much where I've been working from in the mornings, but getting a lot of stuff here, as you can see. So that now is a simple shelf. We can put some things up on there, you know, give us a bit more space, as you can see, and that's a nice little simple shelf. Now the other one I'm going to do is, right, so it's another offcut. I was just mucking around, seeing what would work, and I'm going to screw this one on there. Same sort of system, just to make use of that little bit of space. We've got a little wine cabinet here. Okay, so that can come up here a little bit closer. That'll sit there, and you can see too. This is it 50 or 60? 50 by 20. 50 by 20 black steel or blue steel, and we made all these. I got the boys to make these a Drifta, and I really like this style. We needed a little pantry for here, and also a desk. You can see what I've done. 50 by 20. Made a frame, very simple, black etch prime. You had a little welder, you can make those, and we made this one here as well. And I just really like that style, you know. Now these are the brackets we made up. So pretty much we bought this out 2 years ago and renovating the whole house, so it's a fair bit of a job. But it's just all very basic, you know. We're just painting, putting some furniture in like this, not spending much money. This is the old kitchen. You know, I mean, this is fine. You know, as you can see, all of our outside, Darren and friends, they cook up a storm. You know, a lot of the time. You'll see it all on videos, and we cook some beautiful food. You don't need much. We're not going to replace it. We could easily pull all this out, spend 20 grand on a new kitchen, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to tidy it up a little bit. But these are the brackets that I've got. So for a long time, I was trying to think. I wanted to put a shelf like this on the wall like that. But how do you do that? You know, you can buy a big bracket with, you know, a shelf stay bracket from Bunnings, but they're ugly as hell. So I'm thinking how to do this. And my original thought was to put a big coach bolt in the end here and weld it in, and then I'd screw that into the wall. but then there's no strength this way. So I was actually down at local hardware shop talking to Ray Toomey. He's a good old bloke, a really good old bloke down at the local hardware shop. Told him about my idea, had the coach bowl with me, and he said, why don't you put a little, piece on the end? And a lot of ideas, that's such a simple idea, but that took months of me just thinking about in the back of my head randomly, and then a conversation with a mate who gave me this idea. So that's what I do a lot. I talk to a lot of people about ideas, and it's amazing where you can come up with such a simple thing, but you could have an engineer sit and think about that for months and not come up with that, like, it's so simple. But I've never seen it before, you can't buy them. I mean, other people have done them, I guarantee you, but I haven't seen it before. So just what we're doing, you can see here's a coach bolt, right? Coach bolt there, which is just a big, heavy, like a gate bolt. Now, very important, that cannot go in the gyprock, okay? It's got to go into the stud, which is there. They're generally 600 out from the wall. So what we've done, hopefully you can't see it, but I've drilled a series of very small holes in behind that, and I've knocked just to find it. So I know it's about here. I've drilled some very small holes, 1-2 mil holes behind that to find the stud. As soon as I've drilled through the gyprock and missed the stud, I'll put a little mark, and then the other side, and I'll make sure that coach bolt is right in the middle of the stud, and then do a nice pilot hole, pre-drill hole, and that then holds that. Now that then creates a very strong, you've got a 35 mil stud, 90 mils wide, in this case external wall, and big coach bolt, very strong. But look at the effect of that, your beautiful pine with the bark that we've cut ourselves, and this black contrasting steel, very strong. There's no brackets, it's basically hidden. You can see the bolts there is hidden. On this side here, you've got stuff on the shelf, you can't even see that bolt, because of things there. So it's basically a hidden fixture. And I just love that style. I'm so happy with what we've come up with. And that's just 50 by 20, that's about 100. And I asked the guys to do that, I think 270, 280. I think that's 100, a bit of 5 mil flat bar. It's a very simple system. You can make them up yourself. We've actually had customers, customers who ring me up, and we sold 8 of these the other day, and we're sending them to a mate in Townsville, to a bloke in Townsville. So we can make them if you like. I'll put that on there. This is another example here, what we've done. And I did this last weekend, so you can see the same effect. This was an old laundry we renovated, and it's now sort of a pantry. So we've got these beautiful shelves, and also these shelves here. And as you can see, it's very strong. We've got water, we've got, and there's only 2 brackets, okay? I didn't put the third one in. They're strong enough to carry, okay? And, well, I can put another bracket on there if I wanted to down here. I can do that, no problems. But that's only, so this is about 28 mils, which means it will carry, and it's not going to bend. We've got a dehydrator there, and just some great space. But it's a really simple way of creating some shelves. You could do that in your shed or bedroom or anywhere you like. Yeah, so well, I'll whack this one down here. And so that's a really good example of cutting some timber with a chainsaw, freehand, planing it up, and look what you've got, a beautiful little shelf. Super simple, and you can do that yourself. Looks great, and really functional. With design is always about functionality first. So many designers and things you see, products, they try to get too clever and fancy and look good, but functionality, must be first. It's got to be functionality first, and then you can get, make it look pretty, whatever, later. But you can look at that technique we've used in all of our products. We've designed all our own products, Drifta, the canvas bags, drawers, kitchens, lots of different gear, and you can see that functionality always comes first. Every time you get a milk crate bag and put a milk crate in it, or a bag for this, a bag for that, you can tell functionality always comes first, and the trick with design is that. And anyway, that's the shelf. Tomorrow we might show you how to use the Alaskan mill, all right, on a log with the ladder, and which is another technique, easy to use, but a great way of milling up your own logs. All right, thanks guys. Alright, so there's something else I've been working on is this bench. And that's my little technique of, yeah, just drilling a hole with a hole saw and just putting these pins through. So these are just bamboo pins, right? So you can pull this whole thing apart pretty easy, and yeah, that's just held together like that. So I'm going to put this up against the wall. Just these ones here, I've just glued those two in and a couple of screws. So that's the only two there that are glued, the rest would all come apart. And yeah, so I'm going to put that up against the wall. All we've got to do now is oil it. So these are freehand slabs I cut the other day, and this one I ran through the thicknesser because it's only about 250. These ones are about 380, they're too wide for the thicknesser, so I've just hand planed those, just with a power planer. Yeah, but they've come up pretty good, as you can see. So didn't even run these through the thicknesser, and just a matter of oiling it, and then we'll put it in place. Yeah, it's a great technique, this hole saw. All you got to do is just get the right size hole. It's pretty tricky with the bamboo because the bamboo is always thicker in this section here. That's really hard. Of course, that one's come from there and this one from underneath, so you can avoid that one. But ones like this where you've got a double joint, it's, you know, you've got to sort of trim that back. It's a bit tricky, but apart from that, yeah, that's come up pretty good, I reckon. Yeah, I think it's a good technique, that, with the bamboo and hand slabbed pine boards. Look at that. I love that. Look at the bamboo with the routed on the edge. Looks great. Right, I'll oil this up and put it in place and show you what it looks like up against the wall of the house.